All right, problem solved. Jerry Palm of collegebcs.com and of cbssports.com joins us live on the phone. Jerry, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. I wanted to get started just talking about the obvious question that folks down here want to know about. If Alabama wins out, in your mind, do they play for a national championship?
I'd say probably, but it's not nearly as definite as perhaps others are telling you. They need the help of the voters. They need the voters to move them up into that position, and I think they probably would. But, you know, they've got this game this week at LSU. Right now, Alabama is between the two Mountain West teams in the polls that are going to play each other today. They're behind Boise State by really a pretty sizable margin. So if Alabama goes on the road today at LSU, a top 10 team, and they win that game and they don't make up a lot of ground in the polls on Boise and the Mountain West winner this week, then I think it's time to be concerned. But if they do make a good, strong move this week, then I think that Alabama's probably in the driver's seat.
Jerry, you mentioned the polls, but what about the computer rankings? Last I checked, Alabama was 15th in there. How does that factor into this, and is that a concern?
Well, it's not a concern now because they've got a strong finishing schedule, and they'll make up a lot of ground in the computers over the last month of the season. So I try not to get too worked up about computer rankings this time of the season because teams have only played 8 or maybe 9 games, and they still have quite a bit left to play, still a full quarter of the season left to play. So Alabama will make up ground in the computers, but they can't count on the computers alone putting them into second place in the BCS. They are going to need the support of the voters.
Jerry, if Alabama were to slip up today or against Mississippi State or against Auburn, is there another one-loss team out there that might jump one of those non-automatic qualifiers?
I would think the one with the best chance would be Oklahoma, because Oklahoma at 12-1 could very well be the #1 computer team, period, ahead of everybody with the possible exception of 13-0 Auburn. So Oklahoma would have a chance to do it, but again, even as the #1 computer team, they would still need the support of the voters. If they're way behind Boise in the polls, or if they're way behind an undefeated Mountain West team in the polls, being #1 in the computers won't be enough to change that.
Jerry, of TCU, Utah, obviously they play tonight. One of them's going to have a loss, but right now, with those two plus Boise State, of those three, which of those would have a chance, in your mind, do you think, to possibly play for a national championship?
Well, I think right now, looking at it, you'd have to say Boise State because the voters really, really like Boise State. They're one spot ahead of TCU in the polls, but they're way ahead. I mean, the point totals are big, and that's what the BCS ratings use. And so, again, if TCU or Utah, the winner of that game tonight, doesn't make up a lot of ground on Boise in the polls this week, they're never going to, because the rest of their schedule isn't going to be strong enough to change the minds of voters. So this is a big game for those two this week. I think the winner might have to win big to make a move on Boise State.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Are style of points very important right now for these teams?
They are the voters, yeah. I mean, the computers don't care. They don't measure margin of victory at all. They're not allowed to use it, but the voters certainly do care. So if you're going to make a strong impression on the voters, the way to do it is to win big, or win comfortably anyway.
Jerry, real quickly, we've got 30 seconds left. When you look at Oregon and Auburn, the two undefeated automatic qualifying schools, of those two, which ones in your mind has the greater chance of having an upset?
Oh, Auburn has, just because they have to go to Alabama. I mean, Oregon has Arizona left, and that's certainly a good team, and they have to go to Oregon State, and that's the rivalry game, and they're also a good team. But I think Auburn has the greater challenge having to go to Alabama.
Well, Jerry, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Some great information, and we'll talk to you, I assume, down the road. Thanks very much for being with us, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, a lot of good information there. Coming up in the second part of the program, we're going to go live to LSU and talk with one of their athletic directors to get the Tigers' take.
Indeed. Also in our SEC Roundup, the very latest on the Cash for Cam controversy. On Friday, the Auburn quarterback spoke publicly for the first time since allegations emerged that there was a man trying to get money for Cam and his family during the recruitment of the star quarterback. Plus, you know her from the news at 5 and 6. You've heard us talk about her at 5. She's the best picker we know. That's why we're bringing her on to be our guest prognosticator. News director Lynn Brooks will be our guest live on the set.
That's going to be a lot of fun, and a lot more still to come on Crimson Tide Kickoff. But first, we do want to take a moment and just acknowledge some some very sad news from over in Starkville, our neighbors to the west, Mississippi State football player this week.
Absolutely. Would be remiss if we didn't mention the tragic death of Nick Bell, the Mississippi State defensive lineman, number 36 in this video. Football fans continue to mourn. He was only 20 years old. He played high school football just up the road at Jess Lanier High School, the former Jess Lanier High School in Bessemer. He passed away from cancer Tuesday at UAB Hospital. Now, obviously, his coaches and teammates are grief-stricken, but head coach Dan Mullen told the media that many of them, including himself, got to visit with Nick on Monday.
A lot of our players got to go and see the situation and say their goodbyes, and you know, and pray and give all their love to Nick and his family at the time.
And like we said, this story has transcended the world of college football, touched everybody in college football. On Wednesday, Coach Nick Saban made mention of Bell during his press conference.
You know, it's you always feel badly when a young man who has such great future doesn't get the opportunity to fulfill it. And I think that's all the more reason that our players should have gratitude, and we all should, for the blessings that we have and all the good things that we have that we should be thankful for and make sure we think about every day.
I mentioned Bell being from Bessemer. One of his best friends was Alabama defensive end Marcel Darius, who visited Bell on Monday in the hospital. Darius played at Huffman High School. He says Bell wouldn't want him to feel bad or not want him to play this weekend. He'd want him to play great against LSU. In fact, the two players always had a friendly competition.
It was a competition every week. Who gonna have the best stats or something like that, or who gonna make the most tackles. And of course, you know who won that, but we just always joked around and played a lot. And I know he wouldn't want me to feel sorry for him or something like that. He still want me to just go out there and do the best I can.
Bell was a sophomore at State. He will be honored during several of today's SEC broadcasts. Nick Bell was only 20 years old. We'll continue with the second hour of Crimson Tide kickoff right after this.
Tiger Stadium, a.k.a. Death Valley, is known for a lot of things in the college football world. Loud fans, an electric atmosphere, and perhaps one of the most unique traditions in college football, a live Tiger on the sidelines, usually sitting just in front of the visiting team's locker room.
All I do is hear about they having a tiger out there right when they come out.
Everybody was like, it's a tiger outside the locker room. You know, so.
No. External factor.
Yeah.
They get the tiger to roar every time the other team comes out to intimidate.
It's kind of wild. We need an elephant outside the locker room.
And our next guest knows all about LSU and their traditions. Herb Vincent serves as the Tigers' Associate Vice Chancellor for Universities Relations, as well as a Senior Associate Athletics Director. He joins us now live via the telephone from Baton Rouge. Herb, good morning to you. How are you, man?
Good morning. Doing great. Looking forward to the game today.
I'm sure, Herb. Thanks for joining us. This is Gary Harris. Let's start off by talking about the obvious. I know it's been a number of years now since Nick Saban left LSU, first for the Miami Dolphins. Of course, now he's at Alabama. Has the hoopla surrounding Nick Saban coming to Baton Rouge died down any from 2 years ago, or is it still a huge story down there?
I think the edge was off after the first game. You know, the whole Nick coming back to Baton Rouge thing was a really big deal last time around. But this time I think it's all about the teams and the games, and of course what Alabama's accomplished. The fact that both have been national champions in recent years is just back to being a huge LSU versus Alabama football game.
Herb, on the other sideline today, Les Miles hasn't lost much, won a national championship. Still, sometimes the guy gets booed in his own stadium. What is the fan perception of him right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of appreciation for all that's been accomplished, but the craziness of how we win some games at the end, I think is just a little unsettling to some of the fans. They'd like to see some more dominating wins. You know, unfortunately, fans tend to predict the future, and so they say, well, sure we won today, but if we keep playing like this, we're going to lose this game and that game and this game. Instead of doing it like coaches do, the cliche, take one game at a time.
and I think that's what you got to do. Fact is, we have 2 7-1 teams facing off in Tiger Stadium today, and it's a great game and a huge game, and 2 very accomplished coaches facing each other, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Herb, that's a great point about the team's records. You know, the SEC is a unique league. You have very little margin for error within your league, but nationally, because the league is so respected and has won 4 national championships in a row, there is some margin for error. Both these teams, if they went out, obviously would have an opportunity still to go to Atlanta, play for an SEC championship, and if that happens, could play for a national championship potentially. So as you mentioned, this is a huge game, not just in the conference, but nationally as well.
It really is, and I don't know what you guys think about the whole proposal of a playoff system and all that, but that's what's great about the regular season in college football. It's just not there in any other sport, is that every game is a huge game, and every game is an elimination game. And this is one of those. And so, you know, in what other sport could you have a midseason game where it's pretty much do or die?
Herb, obviously LSU, they lost Auburn, then went into the bye week. You're around the program, obviously, with your position. How has this team responded, and do you get the sense that they're ready to bounce back?
I think they're ready to bounce back. I think it's going to be a great game. I think they're going to play well today. I think they're going to play strong. You know, our coaches have done a really good job when they've had an open date of preparing the team. Our coaches do a really good job of preparing the team to play the game. And so I think they're going to come out strong. You know, obviously, Alabama's won an awful lot of games in Tiger Stadium. And it's just the way history has come down on Alabama's side in Tiger Stadium. So we know the formidable opponent that we're up against, Alabama being defending national champion. And, you know, anything could happen in this game. There's been some wild finishes in LSU-Auburn games, but this promises to be the same type game here today with LSU and Alabama.
Herb, LSU offensively can run the football. Solid in the running game. Passing has been a struggle against Alabama's defense. Do you think the passing game has to get on track for LSU to be successful offensively?
I think it is. I think we really have to, we have to be our best today. LSU has to play its best football to do that. They really have to have a balanced offense. So we've got to pass the ball better than we have this season. We've just been way too inconsistent with the passing game. We've run the ball well, but when we can get a passing game clicking, it certainly opens up the running game even more. So we've got to be able to pass the ball. That's going to be critical today. If we can't do that, we're really going to struggle.
Well, Herb, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. I know the game days are probably very busy for you, and we certainly appreciate the time this morning, man.
Well, thanks for the time. LSU loves playing Alabama. It's a great game and a great day for college football.
Absolutely.
Should be a great game tonight, no doubt about it. Herb, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
all right.
guys.
Right now, we want to turn it over to Richard Scott, let him give us the forecast for today's game and tell us how cold it's actually going to get. Richard?
Hey, John and Gary, tell you what, it's cold this morning, but I will say this, it's just a bit warmer standing in the sunshine. Temperature starting to warm up here in Tuscaloosa. Let's go over to our tower camera, show you what's happening over the city of Tuscaloosa, looking at Denny Chimes, and it's a beautiful morning. It's just cold out there to show those current conditions, and temperature starting off below freezing. We're still at freezing right now, 32 degrees. It's showing some clouds around. It doesn't look like any clouds in the sky here in Tuscaloosa, though. I have a calm wind in place now. Elsewhere, temperature-wise, it is still cold out there. Check out Demopolis, 29, 29 over in Columbus, Mississippi as well, 27 in Haleyville. Temperatures will continue quite cool today. Now, the southeastern U.S., the reason we're seeing these gorgeous conditions, but cold conditions, thanks to big surface high just off to our north and west over Mississippi. And this high pressure is just a controlling factor of our weather, at least for the next few days, as well as down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You see the football graphic there. Now, as we go into the day today down in Baton Rouge, we're talking just nice conditions. It's going to be chilly, though, much like how our weather is here locally. We're talking temperatures in the 50s, lots of sunshine. 10 o'clock in the morning, 51, 58 by noon, and the temperatures by kickoff time at 2:30. We're talking temperatures closer to 63 degrees. So, John and Gary, it's cold here. It's going to be kind of a cool day down in Baton Rouge, but a little bit later on in the show, we'll talk about the SEC forecast and tell you about some more better news and even some cold temperatures, especially towards Nashville.
All right, Richard, thanks very much.
I was thinking about laying out by the pool for a little while.
I don't think that would be a good idea today.
Nice and sunny.
I know you want to work on your bronze figure and everything, but I just don't think that's a good idea
Hey,
today.
the sun's still shining.
Oh, my goodness. This is what you get on Crimson Tide Kickoff. Always exciting. Coming up next on the big show, we go around the SEC. Auburn quarterback Cam Newton has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons this week, and now the Auburn QB is speaking out about the allegations that he was being shopped around for cash during the recruiting process.
And also later on the program, there's another book out about Bear Bryant, but this one is unique. It's all about leadership, and we'll talk with someone very involved with this great book. I've already read it. You're going to enjoy hearing about it, and you're going to want to pick one up. You're watching Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA TV.
This is how I'm freaking Bama.